Hi there, and thanks for listening to Adulting is Easy podcast, where we make adulting easier by making money easier. This is your host, Lauren. Please rate and review. I'm joined today by Mark Holmes. He and his wife, Brie, started investing in one long-term rental and two short-term rentals in April, June, and October of this year, 2022. They both work W-2 jobs and have leveraged Mark's 401k via loan and two withdrawals to kickstart their real estate investing journey. They're also exploring opening up a flower shop. Their goal is to have enough cash flow to have the option to retire by the end of 2025. Mark and Brie have a golden retriever named Tatum and had their first baby boy, Jackson, in September. Thanks for joining me, Mark.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I do want to let everybody know that this episode is sponsored by Steadily Insurance. Steadily covers so many kinds of properties: single family, multifamily, vacant, restorations, apartment buildings, condos, even manufactured homes. Get this, they also cover Airbnbs and VRBOs. If you rent property to others, support this podcast by clicking the link in the show notes and getting a quote. Our goal for today is to make adulting easier for listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since managing money is a big part of adulting. Today, Mark, you and I are going to talk about having both long-term rentals and short-term rentals in your investment portfolio. But first, can you please tell me what made you want to get into real estate?
Sure. Yeah. So I think the origin story for us was, COVID originally happened. We were in Cincinnati at the time. So my W-2 did massive amount of layoffs, and we had a home we had just purchased like earlier that year. I mean, my wife had her job and she was pretty safe, but for me, it was like, am I going to get laid off? Like, what am I going to do? Do I have to start scrambling on LinkedIn? And I'm looking for jobs. And I think, luckily I ended up holding my job, and, a few of my really close friends did get laid off and had to pursue other careers. So that was kind of like the aha moment for me. Start Googling, all right, alternative streams of income, stumble across like your Rich Dad, Poor Dads, your Brandon Turner's, Bigger Pockets, kind of like, okay, what do I do here? You start reading. I'm a big Audible guy, so started looking into Rich Dad Poor Dad on Audible. Then it rolled into your Gary Kellers and your Brandon Turners, and I'm starting to read all these books, and I'm like, okay, so take action. Everybody kind of says that, right? So for me, it was, what do I do? So first step for me was, okay, familiar market, long-term rental. We had just left Cincinnati to move back to Massachusetts. And I was like, we always liked going down to Covington, which is right over the bridge from Cincinnati. So for us, I was like, all right, I'm going to start looking down here. So that's really where I started. And that's where I got the first long-term rental. So
I'm sorry that it started that way, but that's a really great real world example for people. I think a lot of people, when they have a W-2 job, they think it's secure. But if you think about it, you're really getting paid from kind of one person, one company. When you
right.
have, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, side hustles, all these other things going on, you can have your W-2 also, which I still do, right? But I have, a couple different streams of income. So that's great. So a long-term rental in your area, that's how I started as well. Makes a lot of sense. How did you decide which one to buy, and how did that process go?
Yeah, so very green. It was a lot of kind of trial and error. So I started with kind of the neighborhood we had lived in, and we sold our primary home to move back to Massachusetts. So we weren't physically there when I started looking, believe it or not. And I was kind of like, all right, I know Covington. It's a little bit cheaper than Cincinnati, but it also has a lot of boom potential. They're building the big Amazon warehouse development there. I know a lot of jobs are going there. So I kind of went, okay, let me try to find a few realtors in the area, talked to a few different ones, kind of interviewed them. And then I found a realtor who was great. She's a Spitfire, man. She was all over it. She's texting me, calling me, and I was like, this is great. She's doing the FaceTime videos with me of the houses. And finally I found that one, through her MLS system, and I'm checking Zillow too. So we're kind of doing back and forth. So we both found this property. She went and walked it. It was kind of a lingering property, which is kind of what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for, something that was right hot on the market and you had to go over asking at this point in time. And this is April kind of time frame, 2022. So this one was lingering a little bit, been on for I think 45-ish days, and kind of came in a little bit under. The guy kind of countered, met him somewhere in the middle, and that's how I got my first one. So yeah,
So you started with a long-term rental, and then
it
you
did.
kind of quickly transitioned to short-term rentals. What brought that about?
Yeah, so I had one of my close friends had a long term in Savannah, and he had just gotten two in Florida actually. So one in Punta Gorda and then one in Port Charlotte. And just kind of talking to him, just I think we were at a brewery with our wives and just kind of talking. He's like, "Yeah, man, you got to look more into short term rentals." And I went, "Okay, yeah." So I did. I was just stumbling across Avery Carl, and I started kind of like seeing what she was doing and listening to some of her interviews, and then I just kept with it, kept studying on it, listening to Optimize Your Airbnb, kind of seeing like all the different perspectives on it, and then I said, okay, well, I was gonna wait a year. My wife was like, don't jump into anything too crazy. That's just how my mentality is like once I learn about it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna jump, and if I figure it out, I figure it out. If I fail, I learn. And so I did, and I kind of started looking again. I went to kind of a familiar market. I went up to the mountains in that New England, New Hampshire, Maine area. I found a couple of different realtors, and they're sending me stuff. And I found like a log cabin that had been listed for a while, and it was kind of lingering, and I wasn't sure why. I reached out. It was an Airbnb that already existed. It was fully furnished. So I got the information on Airbnb. I found it, and I actually messaged the owner. And this is before our realtors even talked. And I just asked her. I said, "Hey, would you be willing to meet and kind of talk about your Airbnb and your experience doing it?" Turns out she was just buying the property across the street. So like she was building on the land. So she's building the cabin across the street. She's using the money from that log cabin to fund it. So I was like, "Oh, great." So she literally sat with me, helped me get on the platform. She let me copy and paste everything, even to her professional photos over. And she's like, here's how you do it. This is what I do. You can change it and do your own thing. But she said, you can literally have everything all the way down to the silverware in there. And I was like, oh, this is great. So kind of luck, kind of not luck. Luck by happenstance. She just happened to be, selling it, but luck in a way of you kind of make your own luck sometimes too, right? So by going down that road and looking and searching and just taking that action and taking the initiative to ask her, that's kind of where it gets done. So,
Yeah, I love that. That is so cool how just kind she was and
oh my
helpful,
god, unbelievable.
and
Yeah,
I think I would probably do the same thing if I was selling my place because you put whenever you're a short-term rental owner, you put a lot of time, effort, money into everything from, the property itself, but the landscaping, the paint, the furnishings, all of that. So I could see wanting somebody to kind of take it over from there.
yeah,
And what's interesting too, couple of things you said. One, I like that your realtors are really good because they're sending you stuff. I can't tell you, I've had a few different realtors and I don't think I've ever bought a property that I didn't find, right? That somebody
yeah,
sent to me first. So that was huge. The second thing is the lingering listings. We have bought we have 3 properties. We have like a total of 12 tours. 2 of them were lingering for a very long time, 6, 8, 9 months. And even one of those was in 2021 that it kind of lingered out there for a while. And one we bought kind of like the first week we went under contract on. So that's cool too. And something that I think is really interesting that people should think about is specifically looking for those. Cause, there may be a reason it's sitting, but sometimes there's not. Sometimes people just start thinking, oh, it's been on the market a long time. I don't want that one because nobody else wanted it.
yeah. So I think that's something I specifically filter for, like on your Zillows or on your whatever platform you use, and it's just you don't know until you ask the question. So you might have some significant issues with them. So sometimes that happens, but I mean, if you don't go down that rabbit hole, then you won't ever find out. So,
Absolutely. So that was successful then. And that's why you wanted to get the other one?
yeah. So, I mean, I, I didn't put much trial into it, right? So I got it up and
Right.
going. I got Airbnb going. I got VRBO doing, and it's not as much as you think. I manage it myself. I had talked to this with my wife, and we are kind of like, well, do you have like an Evolve come in or somebody, and they do the messaging and the management? And she was the one who was like, hey, we can do this. It's communication. She's like, get your handyman, get your cleaner, interview them, get your systems in place. And she's like, we can do the messaging. Like it's not that hard, Mark. And I went, okay, all right, fine. Like I'm thinking in the long term way of, okay, I have a property management team that's local and they handle everything and they call me if something were to come up. So she said, no, let's just try it out. So I did it and I actually really enjoy doing it. So I have like the quick replies saved and I have like a pretty robust system. Like I said, I've listened to that Optimize Your Airbnb. So it's kind of like the same thing over and over again, like messaging them ahead of time, messaging them after they checked in after a day and, saying, hey, please leave a 5-star review after, hope you enjoyed the
Yep.
stay. And so it's simple and it's repeatable. So it's something you can get better at over time. So that was going really well, small sample size. And I said, the market's not trending so well for my 401k. I really think if I can get one more, that gets a really good foundation as we move forward. And at this point, she was like, first that long term rental, that was kind of like a longer conversation of like me being the salesperson to her. Second one,
Yeah.
she's like, well, this is really cool because we can use it too. And then the third one, she was like, yeah, go for it. She's like, so it's like, all right, like we're in. This is like the thought process, the mindset we have is like, how do we, build this thing out further? So
I think that's something that a lot of couples that get into real estate deal with. I had to drag my husband almost kicking and screaming, not into real estate investing or into short-term rentals, but into this particular property just because it was, 119 years old and needed a lot of work. After
yeah,
that, he's like, we need a cash out refi. We need to get that cash back out. We need to buy another one. Like it was like, I was like, dang, I didn't even think of that. So we did that. And then he also found the 6-unit apartment building we bought last year and was like, we're doing this home run, no question. So that's really funny.
so the second short term rental she found, not the agent, she found it. I was looking, my agent sending me stuff. I had kind of done some FaceTime videos with them, and it's like, yeah, I don't really like any. I don't love any of these. I'm a gut feel guy too, so I was kind of like, no, like it could be profitable, but it doesn't have it doesn't pop. It doesn't really give that like homey cabiny vibe that I'm looking for in that Maine, New Hampshire area that is so appealing to people staying up there.
Yep.
I know my family
Yep.
did it, so um, yeah, she found this one. She's like, well, what about this? And I said, oh, that one's really cool. And then I looked and it had been on forever and I just didn't have it filtered for, it was like a one bath and 3-bedroom, one bath. And I was looking for two and, three. I was like, oh, okay. And then, so I reached out and I talked to the owner again. And I said, okay, would you be willing to leave it furnished? And sure enough, he did. So it was kind of the same situation. He's building the land next door, and he was selling that one to build his new ranch because he didn't want to go up and down the stairs anymore. So
Yeah.
it
Got
worked
it.
out really well.
What I wanted to point out for people too is you guys have jobs. You have a dog, you have a baby, you're going to open a flower shop, right? This is what you can do while also managing your own short term rental. Okay. It can be systematized and it can actually get done. And I talk about that all the time. I use OwnerRez. So I actually have like some, background software. I don't do it natively in the apps anymore, but that's something that I want people to really understand. But I do want to ask, I have to ask, do you think, withdrawing from your 401k, so there's a 10% penalty for that, right? And your
Yeah.
401k was already down and you took a loan, so you can take a $50,000 loan on it and then you did some withdrawals. Do you like 10 out of 10 recommend that for people?
I think it depends. It depends on your situation, your mindset, your willingness to take a shot on yourself. I'd like to say I bet on myself. So this is a different kind of foundation where I was 21, right out of school. I think I graduated on a Friday, was at work on a Monday. I put the max in since I was 21 years old. I'm 32 now, so I'd been maxing it out to the best of my
Wow.
ability with the company match. So I had a significant amount, kind of had saved up over time. So it does work, and it is ebbs and flows of it. I just got to a point where I was like, I gotta do more. I gotta bet on myself. I want to grow this. The way I look at real estate specifically is it compounds in a different way. So you can 1031 your way up if you want to go bigger. You're doing that loan pay down. So that's appreciation loan pay down where you get more equity. And then, for us selfishly, like, we can use it too, which is great. So now we can take the family up to Maine or New Hampshire, which is really cool for us. Um,
Yeah,
Friends,
so
family.
you're basically sleeping in your 401k.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to look at it like that, yeah. I mean, but there's some people that, it might not be the right move for them. Like, if you can live with, hey, I did this, I took a shot on myself, and I'm seeing the benefits of it, even if you're not as successful as you think. I mean, it's up to each person. There's somebody who might just say, I want to keep it there. I want to, be safe. That's their prerogative. So not everybody's built for that. I think you have to have more of a creative mindset, and uh, I don't know how to describe it otherwise, like a bet on yourself kind of thing. So
Well, it's the proverbial, you need to be able to sleep at night, right? You need to know, if
yeah,
this doesn't work out and it's not a home run, am I going to be able to sleep at night?
right. And I sleep pretty well. It's you might get a message at 11:30. I don't know how to use the thermostat, but then you go, okay, well, how do I automate this message to show
Yep.
or give a video instruction on how to get that away? So that's those kind of failures I look at as like, okay, now I'm just getting better at this. So now I'm
I
like,
don't
okay,
get messages. I don't get messages at night. I have my D&D settings on my phone so that people can get through with a certain kind of
keyword.
couple of things have to happen for that. But I don't get messages overnight for the most part. I do get the thermostat question, which blows my mind because there's a QR code like within an inch of the thermostat that says scan this to work this. And people will still message me and I'll be like, did you see the QR code? They're like, oh my gosh, yes. So, you
Yeah, I
win
mean,
some, you lose some. But
I was just gonna say 9 times out of 10, you're probably fine though. Yeah,
oh, for sure. And
yeah,
if I miss the thermostat, or so if I miss something like that overnight, you know, no harm, no foul. They'll
yeah.
probably be okay. Or they'll figure it out. They'll Google it, right? Instead of immediately coming to me.
There's something to be said for that. Just let them figure it out. Wait an hour. Don't impulsively respond back because you feel like you have to. Sometimes they do figure it out,
Right.
depending on what
Sometimes
it
I
is.
do wait.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wait, but sometimes it's an accident, like I'm on a call for work or something and they have to wait. So I wanted to mention too, you can buy real estate in a retirement account. This is just for listeners' information. I believe it has to be an IRA, and there's crazy rules and compliance for it. You aren't allowed to physically do any work yourself. For example, all of the cash flows have to remain within that Roth IRA, so you can do that as an option. I'm not in any way saying you should do that or you shouldn't use your 401k to invest in real estate. I'm not saying any of that, just as an FYI to people. And my husband and I have done both. We have dialed down our 401ks. We're maxing ours out for a few years there, and we kind of realized this is not where we want our money. So we're just getting the match now. And I do sort of wish we did that sooner. Wish we took the bigger leap into real estate and committed more to it earlier on, but we're kind of fixing that now.
I think everybody in real estate says the same thing. Wish I had
Yeah,
done it
you're right.
sooner, right?
You're
I know
right.
I am.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So with these two short-term rentals, one long-term rental, what's the monthly cash flow like right now?
Yeah. So I kind of ran some numbers here. Just it's a smaller sample size on I really the whole portfolio, but like the long term rental is pretty fixed. Other than your, maybe quarterly filter change outs, but that's 570 a month after you take into account the rent minus the property management fee at 8% minus the mortgage taxes, and all the tenant pays all utilities. So, and they're there through June next year. It's a couple of seniors in a local college nearby. So very happy with that. And they're two cats. So
So
uh,
there's a mortgage on that,
it is. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So 570. So
Wow.
I'll go to the New Hampshire cabin. So this one, again, small sample size. So I've only really had August, September, October, and now November. Average cash flow, 2,000 a month.
Wow.
So it's just
Nice.
under 2,000. Yeah, it's like 19 or something like that. And this is taken into account, I'm paying all utilities. I'm paying, my landscaper slash snow removal professional, your cleaners, at least the cost out per clean. I still make money on the clean. Not a ton, but you still make money. And then, you got I think, your electricity, your cable, all that stuff. And it's still taken just under 2K a month, which is fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a year, you've taken money that was locked up until you were 59 and a half and created $2,500 a month of cash flow, at least, right? Because there's one more property
And
as
that's
well.
where I was going to get to. Yeah. So I have the main one right now. And again, this is a really small sample size because I didn't really start it until mid October. So mid October into November. So I put 700 down so far. And I honestly think I can get that up to that 2000 mark, similar to the New Hampshire cabin. It's just a matter of proving it. So I didn't want to fake the cash flow. I did have a couple of hiccups along the way too. So, I mean, I had a couple of cap shingles come off in a storm. I had a
Yeah.
furnace flex hose that was leaking that my handyman had to go over and repair. And then I had him help me install the Starlink too. So those expenses like do add up, but for me, sometimes it's easier just to be like, just do this. I don't want to drive up. It's 4 hours for me, so it's far enough away where I'm not going to go up and do stuff. It's like that's
Yeah.
why I
No,
have
for
the
sure.
handyman. Yeah.
Yeah, our 6 unit apartment building is 2.5 hours away. So we will go up. Well, our goal is to go up quarterly and stay and just check on things, meet with the cleaners, things like that. My uncle's a handyman and he lives in that county, so
Oh,
we
nice. Yeah.
tend to send him. He doesn't move super quick, but he gets over there. It takes care of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So let's say you do get to 2000 on the third one. Won't hold you to it, obviously, but you're at basically 4,500 bucks. And we heard in your bio that you want to have the option to retire by the
Yes.
end of 2025. What's the cash flow goal for retirement?
Yes, I think, and I think a lot of people will tell you the magic number is 10,000 safely. I don't think it
Sure.
needs to be. I would say it at least needs to be 60% of my W-2. So whatever that is in by 2025, 60%. But like right now, I'd say after tax, it's really only $6,000. So it's pretty close for me. And I'm not taking into account my wife's income at all. I'm just talking about me specifically. And I'll get into that later with the flower shop talk. But so for me, that's a very realistic goal. I think I have my goal board up over here, and I put two next year and two the year after, and then you'll have well above that and safety buffer. But really, it only has to be one next year and one the following year to get retired if I want to by 2025. And I'm not saying I'm going to do
Eh,
that. I just like to have the option to do that. Yeah.
And you'll be 35 then, is that right?
I'll be 34.
So the flower shop, is this
Yes.
something that you guys are going to do? Like, is your wife going to stop her W-2 job and that's going to be like her job, or is this a 2025 thing? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so we had our son Jackson in September. So she's on maternity leave through the end of the year. So I said, "Well, what would you want to do if you didn't want to go back to work?" Because I told her you don't have to go back to work. Like if you don't want to, you can figure it out. I'd like to do something with flowers. So she said this a few months ago, and then I start looking at Flippa, Biz by Sell, and I'm like, hey, well, there's this flower
Yep.
shop right, 10 minutes away from our house. That's for sale. Lady's been there for 18 years. She's retiring. She wants to take her RV off into the sunset. She's 70 years old at this point, and I'm listening to Walker Dybel and Buy Them Build and how acquisitions are easier than startups, and I'm kind of like
Yes.
in that mindset mode too. And she's like, well, yeah, like that would be really cool. It's all right. Well, let's look into it. Do you mind if I call her? And she's like, yeah, yeah, go for it. So now we're at the point, we're in that acquisition phase. So we have like the application going on for the SBA loan. We're
Wow.
talking to her daily. We're going to actually have to move the location down the street because the landlord doesn't want us to stay there. So I mean, it's a ton of learning experience, and the way I look at it is even if she doesn't like our break even on the shop to start, even if she doesn't make money, we're okay. But I mean, she's going to make money. Like we're going to do fine. She's going to run it day to day. I'm still going to keep my W-2 as a fail safe, be more of a CFO. She's going to be the CEO, COO. And then we're going to try to build it from there. There's no social media presence really on it. So there's a lot of improvements that are like low hanging fruit that we feel we can take advantage of. So
Yeah, that's so exciting. We get a small taste of that. It's different, but my husband was the second employee at his engineering firm, and this was in 2019. And now there's, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them, and he's a 25% owner. So we sort of have the business ownership side of things through that. And it's interesting how much that helps the real estate and vice versa. And you really, because the real estate, sometimes I think people forget that is a business too. That's an entrepreneurial venture too. And sometimes, you just get in this business owner mindset and you're like, I want to apply these thoughts somewhere else. I want to apply this thinking somewhere. I mean, marketing, a part of any business. When we bought this bed and breakfast, it was a bed and breakfast, commercial bed and breakfast with a commercial license and everything. But same thing, no social media presence, wasn't on Airbnb or VRBO. I was like, man, if we buy this thing, we do just that. We're gonna do better than she did, probably, right? So that's awesome. I'm excited for you guys, and that's super fun. Does your family know about the flower shop?
They do, yeah. So I've actually shown them, taken them by. So the way we both grew up was kind of like you're go to school, work hard, get a good job, right? Save your money. That old school mindset. So as I started doing this, they're supportive, but they're kind of like, are you done? Like you're kind of
Yeah,
like shocked.
I
It's almost like slow down. You're crazy,
yep.
but we know you really study these things, and like when you talk about it, you're enthusiastic about it. So like we believe you, and I keep saying I'm gonna just kind of go at my pace, and I'll show you like as I'm going along, like what I'm doing, and hopefully I can get them involved and see what they think. But right now they're just kind of observing and being supportive. But yeah, they'll definitely be
I
helping
think
with the
that's
flower
pretty
shop.
normal. Oh, good. Yes. Yeah, my family, my parents, friends, they're all kind of the same way, just like, okay, you do you, and that's why I love, I'm pretty active on Twitter, and that's why I love that group and love these kinds of conversations, because sometimes in just your regular day-to-day life, you don't have people that you can talk short-term rentals or long-term rentals
Right.
or opening businesses and things like that with. So that's I'm really happy for you guys. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
But I
Thanks.
mean, I'm a little bit with the family. Like, you just had the baby, you bought 3 rentals, your first 3 rentals, the same year you had the baby, and now you're going into like a full blown like entrepreneurial venture. That's incredible. But I
Yeah.
do see why people would be like, wow, that's a lot.
It's a momentum thing, though. It's like once you have that
Yes,
mindset, it's a snowball effect. It's like if I'm not doing something like this now, I'm kind of bored. And not that my
I
job's
know.
boring or anything like that. It's just more like I gotta have to like continuously challenge myself now. That's just kind of how my mindset shifted, and I used to put that into just my job, and now it's kind of like, well, you can do all these other things. There's a lot of time
Yes.
left in the day outside of your
You
job.
are so right. And you don't know until you start working on your side hustles and stuff how much time there really is, right? I can work a full day. I can record a podcast. I can go on the Discord for Cashflow University. I can answer guest emails. I can talk to my cleaners. And then I can still, at the end of the day, watch an entire Tampa Bay hockey game or
There
watch
you
an
go.
entire Monday Night Football. I could still do those things. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so something you said very early in the conversation, Mark, was when you're listening to things, everybody's saying take action. And that's something that I try to get through to listeners as well on this podcast. Is there any other advice other than just kind of the general take action for people that are thinking about getting into real estate right now?
Yeah. So one of my buddies I work with, he always uses the term like Kentucky windage. It's like you're not going to get everything exact. Like you got to just pick it up, give it a feel. Like it has to be kind of a gut feel. Like don't get me wrong, run your numbers, make sure you're doing your due diligence. But at some point, you got to have a feel for it. And if it doesn't feel right, maybe just back off. But if it does, like keep going. Like that fear you have to get past to take action. It takes. It's almost like anything else. It's repetition. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get doing it. Um, but taking that first step sometimes can be really tough for people, and I get it because I've been that guy. Uh, and once you kind of break through it, it really makes a difference. And I think if you have the right mindset for it, you can just continue to grow. So that's what I would say.
Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Well, I was just gonna say go with your gut, but I kind of already touched on that point. So I think that's really it for me.
All right. Well, why don't you tell people how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah. So it's my Twitter and Instagram are real Tatum 57. Not a huge social media presence. I didn't have social media for years until I started following all these real estate and businesses and things of that nature. So looking to build that. That'll be my next step.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll need to do that for the flower shop, anyways.
Yes, definitely.
You can follow me. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Adulting is Easy. I started a YouTube channel. We did video record this. So if you are listening on audio and you want to see this too, you can. I'm also on Facebook. You can email me at realadultingiseasy@gmail.com. I am on Instagram at adultingiseasyreal. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully, Mark and I have made adulting a little easier for you.